Hi, my name is John Mashni. I'm an attorney at Taylor English, and today I'm going to cover EINs or employer identification numbers. So first of all, what is an employer identification number or EIN? Well, it's a 9-digit identifier that you get assigned by the IRS, which is the Internal Revenue Service, and usually it's assigned to a business or an entity. Sometimes it can be assigned to an individual if there's a business purpose for needing an EIN. Sometimes it's referred to as a federal tax identification number. And the main purpose are things like the ability to open a bank account, to hire employees, you're going to need an EIN, and to file a tax return. You're going to need an EIN to file a tax return in many cases, particularly for businesses. So really, it's similar to a social security number, but for a business or for a business purpose. It is different than a social security number, though, because a social security number is designed for an individual, right? An EIN is designed usually for a business purpose, and it's distinct. So you might have a social security number, you will need to get an EIN if you're going to be operating a separate business where you're going to be opening a bank account and filing a tax return. So is it necessary? Do you need to get an EIN? And in general, I advise people, for the most part, to get an EIN if you can get an EIN or if you're operating a separate business. Mainly because you don't want to always be giving out your social security number every time you transact and do any type of business activity with your tax ID number. So for example, if you have a business with employees, if you have a business with multiple owners, if you have a corporation or a partnership, or sometimes an LLC, right? You're going to want and need to get an EIN for that different business. To file certain types of taxes, you're going to need an EIN. Even when, if you maybe even have a sole proprietorship business, you might want to get an EIN, or there might be a reason where you have to get an EIN if you're going to operate as a sole proprietor. I know, having worked with people who have nannies or domestic employees, that they get a separate EIN for that domestic employee or an in-house nanny, right? We're going to be paying them and paying the proper taxes on that nanny. So usually I advise people to get it if you can. That way you protect your social security number. And even it can help with instances of identity theft where you're not passing out your social security number to lots of different organizations that need it. And there are lots of reasons why you're going to need a tax identification number as part of business operations. So how do you get one? How do you get an EIN? Well, usually when I'm forming an entity for one of my clients, we always include that in our price, and that's part of the process that we go through to help people form an entity. There's a paper form that you can fill out called an SS4. You can mail or fax that in, but that process takes usually a long time to obtain it. It could be a matter of weeks before you hear back. So normally what we do with our clients is we fill out the online application. It's on the IRS website, and it's usually very quick. In a matter of moments, just by 15 minutes, you can fill it out and you get the EIN at the end, and they'll either mail you the letter or you can download that letter with your EIN on it. So very quick way you can get the EIN through the IRS website. Now, I do think I advise people to work with an attorney or a professional when you're getting that EIN, because there are certain things that you want to make sure that you do properly and fill out the information properly in that online site or in that SS form. So you can apply online. That's how you get one. What do you need to do when you get the EIN? Well, that EIN is going to go on your tax return and any tax forms when you pay employment taxes, for example. Many times when you submit any government documents, you need to put the EIN. We're talking about even state tax filings, state documents, state forms. You're going to need to put that EIN onto those forms. And even nonprofits need an EIN. A nonprofit corporation, and sometimes even a trust can get an EIN. So you want to make sure that you keep accurate records and you're keeping track of these main documents where you're receiving the EIN. Okay, so how long does it take to get it? You can get it very quickly, but you do need to make sure you do things in the proper order and you understand the type of entity that you have. In general, an EIN is one of the basics of being in business. And like I said, normally when I form an entity, I always include obtaining an EIN as part of that process. And the only time I wouldn't is if we're dealing with a very sophisticated person who says, just file these articles for me, and then I'll get the EIN. but still, it's a very simple process, and most paralegals or professionals, they know what to do. They can do it pretty quickly. So I hope that answers your basic questions. If you have any other further questions, feel free to reach out, and hopefully talk with you soon.